Okay, so live stream should be active. Hopefully. Okay, so live stream should be active. Yeah, alright, so the point of today's stream is really just some work on some game stuff. So go here. This is for an unannounced project that I've been working on. And this is sort of like a main menu type area. Maybe not the main menu, but it's a kind of a selection level, if you will. There's a lot of optimization work to be done to it, seeing as the actual thing itself. 1 second. Stack commands. I don't know what's going on there. That's weird. Something's going on with the capture. Capture. Change that. Specific window. That doesn't appear to be working either. I'm not sure what's going on there. I had this all set up, I swear. Might need to just do window capture. It's not right. Do a whole display capture perhaps. Okay, that'll work, but it's all scaled weird. Let's see. Transform. Screen. Better-ish. Yeah, should be fine. Anyway. Yeah, this is like a selection level. And because of the relatively high polygon counts, a lot of work has gone into dealing with this project is for the Quest 2. So the Quest 2 has not a lot of horsepower. It's a lot better than the Quest 1, but it has problems with high polygon counts and high draw calls in particular. And I've put a lot of work into optimizing for draw calls and optimizing for triangle counts. But that being said, there's still a lot of work to be done, and that's what most of today is probably going to be, is just recombining all this stuff into, static meshes. So, like if I go here, let's do stat scene rendering. So like right now we're at 163, 170, 121. Let's go here. 121 draw calls. And that's kind of a lot, seeing as you should probably be targeting less than 100. No more than 175, I think the number is. So that's a hard ask. But you can get some really good results going from modular workflow, which is how, everything I build is always with modular pieces. Like you have this building, which is made up of, I don't know, 20 pieces probably. Each one of these individual components is its own mesh. But they all share similar materials, or the same materials. So they can all be combined down into a single static mesh. Which if we set a camera, like right here, so 3, I go through and we just select all of this. Nothing under the ground here. Select this. I'm not quite sure how entertaining this is going to be compared to like the sped up videos I did of the development, like February of last year. But I was like deathly sick during that time between like January and February. Quite frankly, I think I had COVID, but I think a lot of people don't believe that, seeing as we didn't really know what it was. But then again, my wife had sort of the same thing, and they don't really know what was wrong with her back then, which kind of leads me to believe even more. But once the actual tests are more readily available, I will probably be getting one. I had like a horrible cough that wouldn't go away. Editing that video, or those videos where I was doing the development for like 6 hours straight, cut down to like 10 minutes. Editing those videos sucked because like every 5-10 minutes was just a cough. And I had to cut those out, of course, because nobody wants to see that. So we go back to our camera here. Position 3, we're at 289 draw calls. And then let's, I'm not going to do this entire building. I'm going to do this in halves. Because another part of this is we're going to be using a... There's a lot we can learn from old game design. Like you look at something like Morrowind back in the day. Sure, it's an ancient title by today's standards. It's like it's coming up on literally 20 years old. But that game, it didn't have level of detail. It didn't have LOD models going out far because the engine just couldn't support it at the time, and neither could the hardware. Very, very low power hardware with the original Xbox, and the PCs weren't really great either. But they used fog to kind of deal with fading models in and out, and we're going to do something similar here. So like if I enable this fog, it's just an exponential high fog. We can just go in between these models like this. Now the actual culling of the models themselves has not been implemented yet, but just dealing with the fog itself, you see it kind of gets rid of actual dealing with the transitions between the houses. And the goal here is to use a fog that's close enough that seems reasonable without ruining immersion entirely. Let's disable that fog because it's difficult to work around. Let's go back to our camera, version 3, 289, and let's convert this to a static mesh. Notice I'm not selecting the door here, and that's by design. Let's just group that real quick, because these doors are actual blueprints instead of actual static meshes, because they handle how you load into other areas. While I would love to have this all like open world and like where you could just open up a door and go into a house, that's not really doable for something on the Quest or something on low power hardware in general. or just VR. Even something as high scale as like Half-Life Alyx, you'll notice a lot of it, like if you look at how that game is designed, expertly crafted. That game has very somewhat short sequences divided up by loading screens, and the parts that aren't cut up by loading screens are cut up by areas that are very clearly designed to break up level design, in that the player won't be able to see backwards. So you'll go down a hallway and then it'll unload stuff behind you. It's very classic level design stuff. I don't think anyone is really surprised by that. So anyway, yeah, this is a load door that'll take you into a location. The only one that currently functions right now is this one, and I have the actual system set up. So if I just plop in a actual level name here, it'll load you into that cell. So back to what we're doing. 3. I might want to end up multi-streaming this on Twitch or something at some point. I don't know how popular this is going to be among regular channel viewers. Of course, my mother is here, but hi, Mom. Let's see. Let's convert this to let's Shift G to uncouple that. Let's convert it to a static mesh. Houses. Let's do, I don't remember how I did this. It's been a while since I messed with the first one. So let's go to houses. Yeah, that was house. That was the merge stuff. That one is deleted. That's no longer a thing. Let's delete that. Yeah. Yeah, we'll put that right in there. So convert editor static mesh. We'll go up to houses. I really wish they would fix this in an Unreal Engine. It doesn't seem to be something that, I don't know, maybe I should submit a bug, because every time you create a new static mesh, it asks you to, it asks you where to put it, and it always defaults to meshes. Actually, I'm not doing what I think I'm doing right. Yeah. Houses. House 2. Let's just name it House 2. -1 maybe, because it's 2 parts and then the middle part. So let's go that. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. So it's not convert to static mesh I was trying to do, actually. That's wrong. It's actually merge actors, of course. I can't remember which version I was using, because it used to be just one version, now it's 3 of them. And I think it's the first one, because I think the second one merges harvest geometry for selected items and merge them into a single mesh. That seems right as well, actually. Group material seems correct as well. I'm pretty sure this is the right one. Sound pretty dumb right now. Oh well. Alright, merge actors. Here we go. And then let's go into houses, house 2. Let's just save and we'll overwrite that. There we go. Let's close that. Now we have one actor here instead of multiple. And if we go back here, we'll see that took us from, like, what was it, 289 down to 249. So I guess that was, yeah, 49 draw calls, or that's a reduction of 40 draw calls, which is substantial, clearly. Now, the problem is we still have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 materials. And materials, that might be something I'm going to have to look into as well, is like actual merging the materials. But the problem with merging the materials is you get maybe this is just me that I just don't know what I'm doing here, which is possible because, always learning, everyone. Um, but whenever you actually merge materials, you get these really low resolution results that I feel like are actually meant for far away objects, which is not what I'm doing here. Um, so, like if I actually go back, and so now we have this version here again. We're back up to let's go 289. So if we actually merge it again, and we use this version, merge actors. Let's go to houses, house 2. Well, let's just make this one. This one's called the proxy. We'll merge that. It'll do the exact thing. It'll actually generate materials as well, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. The difference between these is quite substantial. Like right here, if we open up this model has, if we go to lot 0, 17,000 triangles, which is a lot. And we'll be reducing that number down using LOD significantly. But that's not what we're doing yet. So, yeah, 17,000 polygons, or triangles, whatever. 17,000 polygons, 22,000 vertices, collision primitives 32. It's probably fine. We'll deal with that later. Collision's important, but not right now. And then if we go to the actual proxy version, well, first of all, it completely gutted the materials. Like, this works, and it's much less polygons. Clearly, it's only 4,328 polygons, which you probably can't see it there in the top corner. But I work on a 4K screen, and I'm not changing that for streams. I like being able to see a lot of things. Maybe that'll make it easier. Right up here in the corner, 4,328 triangles. And if that's at LOD 0, which, yeah, it didn't create LODs at all, that's fine. I don't know what's going on with that material. If we actually go to the material and check it out, let's close that. Open up that. No, that's the actual thing itself. Let's open up the material and see what's happening here. It's probably not using what we need it to for, let's see, base flattened material. I don't know what that one is. That's probably something inside of engine content. Yeah, that's inside of engine content. Yeah, that wouldn't work anyway, because another thing I'm doing here to actually get rid of, another thing I'm doing to deal with performance is on the material and the texture side. So, of course, a device with 6 gigabytes of RAM doesn't have a lot to really spare in way of textures. Most of what I'm working with here is all really high polygon, really high resolution texture stuff, like 4K textures. And in some cases higher. But everything has to be baked down to a lower quality to run on the Quest, as well as poly count. So I have like character model stuff that's 50, 60,000 polygons, and that's completely unusable for something in VR unless you're doing something that's really small scale. Like you could have maybe one character in a room with a room that's like one draw call, but that's the kind of stuff you want to like Solaris. Solaris has really high detail character models, but the maps are made incredibly simple. So it's no wonder that it runs on the Quest 2 so well, or the Quest 1 for that matter. Yeah. So one of the things I'm doing, thanks to actually the Drifter presentation on how they made Robo Recall run on the Oculus Quest 1 and 2, was to actually cut down on the lighting modes, or the lighting model, and the instructions. And this is using material attributes, which doesn't help at all. But all of my actual materials, so yeah, creating this wouldn't work anyway. I mean, I could go through and manually change the flattened material to being an unlit model as well, with full roughness on all that, but I'm not going to do that. So, if we actually bring that model into the world, though, go up to houses. I should probably favorite that. I'll get to it eventually. So we bring that into the world, wherever it went. Where is it? Where did it go? Oh, there it is. That's another problem with the proxy system. It always seems to offset the actual center of where things are, which I obviously hate. So if we bring this over to where it should be, like right over here, you know, it's the same size and everything, and I could probably fix the textures, but they'd be low resolution and gross. Yeah. The hell with that. Although it might have just not created the actual material. It's strange. Anyway. Save all. Cancel. Let's get rid of those because I don't need them. Alright, let's go back through and reselect all these. I really should have kept these in a group probably, so I didn't have to do this. Go back there and reselect all these. See if I got them all. I think I did. Yeah, that's fine. Control Z. Let's go back to our camera's perspective, which should be 289, just like I was before. I don't know why my lip is itching. Oh, weird. Let's merge actors, and let's go down to this one. This one I'm pretty sure is relatively new, because I remember seeing in a live stream that the people at Epic did, them combining some stuff for optimization, and this one was different because it replaces things with instanced meshes, which since I think 4.22 Unreal Engine already auto instances some things, but not. I'll just do it and you'll see what I mean. So like instance replacement threshold. So the fact that there are several things here, like there's this model and like this model, and these three models here, as well as that one there. That's, you know, what, 6, 7 of the exact same model. And because of that, that's, you know, let's just say it's 7. I didn't actually count. But that's 7 individual draw calls on the GPU. And for something like the Quest, that is obviously too many. So you can actually instance those and tell the GPU to draw those at one time. So we have instance replacement threshold here, which is 2. And, you know, you could take it all the way to, you know, it doesn't matter. Take it all down to 1, which wouldn't really do anything, I don't think. But 2. So let's go back to here. Control Z, so I can get my whole thing back. There we go. Place it with actor. Instance act mesh component. I don't know why you would change that from actor. Like, I suppose you could possibly use like a custom blueprint and get some cool functionality out of that, which is an interesting thought, but I haven't actually tried to do that. And then if we if we actually merge these, it's only going to create one instance actor, which is not right. That's strange. I don't know what's going on there. 15 actors to be replaced. Merge. Huh. Oh, that's why I didn't select that. Let's go back to this. Original actors, merge actors. There we go. So now, if we go back to our... Yeah, that's a much less destructive, perhaps, way of doing it. Go back to here. We're down to 260 draw calls instead. Well, I'm glad you find it interesting. I find it interesting myself, but, you know, hopefully other people do as well. I've gotten a few comments saying that I should make more, you know, game development and VR-based videos, but, I don't know. I do a lot of experiments with the channel to see what really sticks, and just because I'm always messing with a lot of different projects, it's kind of a problem. I have like a dozen videos planned. One of those being like I have the Galaxy Buds review I want to do. It's kind of like a long-term review of the Galaxy Buds, which you can't even tell that it says Samsung anymore because my case is all messed up. But these things are amazing. I love these. I have like the I can't even remember what this thing's called. Lenovo. It's the one with the hollow keyboard. I want to do something with that. I was gonna do a review of Megan's MacBook M1, and of course I'm gonna do a tablet giveaway at some point with this thing. But just buried under a bunch of things. I want to do a video based on like limitations and how it took me fucking literally a decade to realize that sometimes limitations in hardware and software can be a good thing. A lot of videos to think about. But it's a matter of actually putting up a green screen or setting up a set and actually dealing with filming and editing, and I don't have a lot of time to do that. So anyway, so yeah, now we're at 260 draw calls versus 249. And while this method is still, you know, good, I mean, seeing as I can actually go through and I can go through and I can actually move things like this individually still. But all this, all the ones that are the same or nearly the same, I'm guessing. I don't know why it chose to do those as well. I'm guessing it just instanced those as well. They move as they all move as one object, and yeah, and that's a perfectly fine method of dealing with creating a more instanced or a more draw call friendly creation. Bad wording, whatever. It's not nearly as good as the first method, which is just to merge them all down into a single thing, and even better if we remove the original source actors, merge them, houses, house 2, house 1, save, replace, seeing as I already did it, all for explanation purposes. And now we just have this one model, and we're down to 249 draw calls. Or if we go to 3, yeah, 249 draw calls, which is still less than 260. And when you're developing for VR, every single draw call really matters. Yeah, if we pull this around, see, it's just one individual building now. And that's a lot of what today's going to be, is just going through and doing a lot of that, while also trying to maintain performance in situations such as... Because we're using fog like this, there are situations where sometimes doing that would not be the best thing to do, because each one of those items, it's really a balancing act between draw calls and triangle counts. Because like I said before, this building is now 17,000 draw call, or 17,000 polygons. The problem with that is, like, let's say we're over here in this area and the fog is really coming in. So we're actually disabling the drawing of everything beyond that fog line. Which, if we get to like right about here, we'd still be drawing this building. But because this is a very large building, there's no reason to actually draw this one over here. It's still technically the same building, though, and that's the problem. So in this particular instance, I'm actually going to be splitting up these three little overhead things, this part of the building, as well as this part of the building. The same thing with the city walls. Like, the original design of this, which I have a drawing of over there that I should have probably brought over. The original design of it had a much larger city wall, and the original design also called for the city walls to be all merged into one instance mesh, or merged down into one mesh. But I don't, and right now the actual city walls themselves are probably 47 actors. So it's a significant number, 47 actors, not including the gates, which I'm not going to go into why there are actually... Oh, hey, Asaka, I don't know you, but hello, how are you? I don't know if you're subscribed. Sorry. If you are, cool. If not, how are you today? Anyway, the original plan was to merge all of the actual city walls into one mesh, but because of what I just talked about, it being a balancing act between triangle counts versus draw calls, sure, we could, we could merge down the entire city into one big draw call. But the problem with that would be triangle counts at that point. So if I was to actually merge these down, and we can do that real quick just for the sake of it. Let's merge them down to, that's a lot of actors. Let's merge that down. Replace source actors. Yeah, I can just go back, it'd be fine. Merge actors. Let's put it in houses for the sake of it, for the sake of demonstration. Call it merge wall test. Oh, okay. Yeah. There's like 114 subscribers now, so I don't actually remember all the names of people that subscribe, unfortunately. But, welcome. Did you subscribe for game dev videos, for my weird review videos, or was it for my development thoughts type of videos? Why did you in particular? Let's name this merge walls test. That's whatever, T-rest. Sure, let's go with that. And then let's wait for that to merge. Okay. So now we have one draw call for all 47 of those actors. And you can see if we select it, it's just one big draw call. And that's fine. Actually, let's still go back to camera 3 and see that deducted any. Yeah, that actually took us down to 240 draw calls versus 249. So even though they were just over here in the background, they were still being drawn, of course. So yeah, that took us down by 4 draw calls, but it also, if we look at the actual mesh itself that resulted in that, this mesh is 50,000 polygons. 50,000 polygons. That is a character in a middle a AA approaching AAA. Okay, which the second VR project, was that the one that got destroyed by losing the SSD? That was a fucking nightmare. I worked so much on that, and I want to get back to doing that project, but I can't. Honestly, I can't bring myself to work on losing a month's worth of work when what I'm working on now I think is much better. Yeah, I think what I'm working on now is much better. I have 2 projects I really want to work on, and I'm trying to get this thing done, and it's not going to make it to the real Oculus Quest store, I don't think, because I don't think it's going to be well polished enough for Oculus's very, very strict content guidelines. In terms of, you can't drop a frame more than 3 times in a 30-minute playthrough or some other nonsense like that. It's insane what their requirements are. But I'm probably going to put it on side quest if I can. That being said, I'm trying to work on something else as well after this that is going to be. I think it's going to be a game changer for mobile VR. Everything I work on, I always want to be. Everything kind of starts out as a tech demo because I have these grandiose ideas about something I'm going to develop, and that's kind of what all developers probably do. Anyway, so yeah, we're 50,000 triangles here, and that's just too many. So yeah, we'd have one draw call, but then we'd have 50,000 triangles all drawn at one time. Even this started out as a tech demo for something I was trying to create, which, funny enough, when I actually get to the point of showing people what the actual project is, what the actual gameplay, the meat of the gameplay is, anyone that watched the original gameplay design videos where I talked about some ideas I had, it'll come flooding back to how I got those ideas, where they came from, and when those ideas were actually born in my head, because they were born in those videos. Anyway, yeah, so 50,000 triangles, that's a lot. So now we have 47 less draw calls overall, or whatever the number was. Significantly less draw calls, but now... Good. So now we have significantly less draw calls, but we have a lot more triangles. So the real solution there is it's a balancing act. Of course, we can go in here and we can just completely decimate these triangles. Literally decimate them, bring them down to a 10%. Take it down to 10% because why not? Let's go to lot 0, take it down to 9.999, whatever. Apply changes. And let's see what this does. That's a lot. 50,000 triangle difference. Yeah, that take us down to 5,000 triangles. But look at these weird artifacts we're getting from doing that. Like it might be fine, maybe. It might not be too bad, but it's still a lot of triangles. When in reality, what we could probably be doing better would be to... I'm going to delete this anyway, so it doesn't matter. No, I don't need to save that. Let's go back here. Control Z. There we go. Unmerge all those. Let's delete that. Delete. So now we have our 47 draw calls back. What we can do instead is like make each one of these little segments of like 3 individual components, because most of the walls are made up of that. They're made up of towers and just these 2 little segments here. We could go even further and just combine each one of these 2 segments into their own little mesh, so there's even less draw calls there. We could make each one of the towers, like we could do all the towers at one time. But again, because of the fog and how we're trying to really optimize for draw distance, what I'm going to eventually end up doing here is doing probably 3 segments. So 3 segments is going to be a mesh, and then all the way around. Because there are some areas, if we go way over here, where it's actually, it's 3 segments here, 3 segments there. Am I wrong? Did I do... Oh, no, here we go. Like right here, it's only 1 segment. So it is slightly different. And that's just because of how I had to kind of move around, the actual... The original wall design was much larger than this, but I wanted to keep the number of houses down. One, because that's a lot of interiors to design. Hint, hint, on what this game really is. That's a lot of interiors to design, and it's a lot for me to deal with, to try to get this out as soon as possible. Not that I want to rush the production of this, but because it's a tech demo, it is going to be... Because it started as a tech demo, it's going to be a little less polished than I would normally want my stuff to be. But because I think the interaction type is so revolutionary and so different compared to anything else on the market, I really want to get it out there so people can get their hands on it, so I can get some feedback. I've got some feedback here and there from family and friends of how well it works. But anyway, so I brought in the actual size of the city and then actually rebuilt the walls around it. Normally how I design like cities and stuff And if you've watched the videos for a while, you know that I have a project that I worked on for like a decade that was like this giant, grandiose RPG thing I want to do that is currently sitting on the shelf, and I will eventually get back to doing it. But I realized I didn't have the resources to do it. It took me a long time to realize that, but I didn't have the resources to deal with it. Yeah, how I would originally design cities would be to design like the outer layer, like the walls themselves. And I'm gonna get that little drawing. So I do little designs. Okay, you're saving up for a VR headset. What VR headset are you saving up for? I of course would recommend the Quest 2 for all of its faults, for all of the faults that it has. You know, the mandatory Facebook login, as horrible as that is, it's an amazing headset. The tracking is second to none at this rate, unless you're doing millimeter precision, which who the hell's doing that? Unless you're doing millimeter precision, the Oculus tracking is phenomenal. It's fine for shooters. It's fine for all that. Outside of that, like if you want to go really cheap, the Windows mixed reality headsets, you can find those things for like $100. Ironically, on Facebook Marketplace. Oh, wow, Germany. Okay, so you can't get the Quest 2. Okay. Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, they're really standing up against Facebook right there. That's interesting. So what headset are you going for then? That's crazy. I have somebody in Germany watching me. That's pretty cool. A kid from a small town in Georgia. It's pretty crazy. So what are you going for? An Index then? A Vive? What you got? Anyway. So this is the original design of this city. Okay, the Oculus Rift S. Oculus Rift S. Okay, that's a good headset. I personally have moved. Did you see the video I did where I sold my my Rift S because I got the Quest 2, or I got the Quest actually at the time. Yeah, I can't deal with wires anymore. Like my actual wire for tethering on Oculus Link is down there, but I can't use it. Because dealing with a wire tugging at my head irritates the hell out of me. Anyway, yeah, the original design of this was it's just a paper design I do, and that's how all my designs start, really. Anyway, let's get back into this. So let's go down into here. And the kind of overview here, too, as well, is to... What I plan on doing is doing this kind of in waves, which is how I did all my materials as well. So, like, the actual items you can interact with in the VR world that I'm working on, which you'll notice, like, this layout is very bare, but it has to be for performance. I'm going to try to find a way to spruce it up as much as possible, but I'm not going to know how much I can do that until I get the performance down to where it needs to be. It's all subtraction based. So build out as much as possible, and then cut and slice as much as you have to make it fit on the Quest. That being said, there's like 2,000 items you can interact with, like physically with your hands. How I ended up working on each one of those items, especially with like collision, was I worked on. I have a big spreadsheet. Okay, yeah, don't really get VR experience gets over Beat Saber and a few good games in VR chat. I've never really been able to get into VR chat, surprisingly. Like I know so many creators that are like, they love VR chat, and I don't really get it. Maybe it's because I'm not really that much of a social person like that. At least not in VR. Maybe I will be eventually. I'm actually in the Facebook Horizon beta, and the most annoying thing about that is the people that are in it. Like, it's cool, and VR is such a revolutionary thing that I think so many people don't understand yet. So I was in Facebook Horizons. It wasn't Horizons. It was the their venues thing during the Oculus Quest 2 announcement thing. And I had a moment that was insane to me, right? So I was, and I'm sure you've experienced this in VR chat, where you're just like you're inside of it, right? And someone asked you something. They're like, "Where is this?" Someone asked me where some concert or something was taking place. I can't remember what it was. I think I put this in a video before. But instead of just saying, "Oh, it's over there," or something like that, or trying to say, it's, or like pointing my character in some direction, I just took my controller, I took my real hand, and just said, "It's over there." And my character in the game did it. I don't think people realize how mind-blowing that is for an immersion standpoint in a social experience. Like when I'm just playing a console game or a regular PC game with like a controller, which, yes, I use a controller to play first-person shooters on PC. I know, it's a crime. When I'm using a controller, though, like to play with my wife, which usually sits right over there when we're playing games together, like Halo, for instance, and I have to tell her where something is. I have to shoot like the ground or like melee in a position or walk towards it in the game with a controller to show where something is. Or Halo Reach added stuff like, where you can give like locations, like has a location at the bottom. But the ability to have your hand and like point at something, which is just so human, the ability to do that in VR is a game changer for social experiences. Yeah. I don't remember where I was going with that. I get off on tangents sometimes. Yeah. I love Beat Saber. The Beat Saber's fantastic. It deserves every amount of praise it gets. And I don't know. There's a lot. There's a few VR games that I just love. I love Contractors. I love Pavlov. I can't wait for Pavlov Shack to get more updates. Funny enough, both of those are made with Unreal Engine as well. It seems like a lot of games are not made, or a lot of VR games that are smaller are made with Unity, or so it seemed like, from what I've seen. But I really hope that, especially with I cannot wait to see what Epic has planned for VR with Unreal Engine 5. Because, we're only a few months away from getting the first beta for Unreal Engine 5 as developers. And I 100% am looking forward to that. Anyway, yeah, so how I do things in terms of dealing with these large, massive scales of content that I usually work on, like, there are thousands of items that I'm working with as a developer. And how I go about... And only so much of this stuff can be automated, by the way. Like, my first thought, if anyone thinks like I do, when it comes to developing things, is, okay, how much of this can be automated? How much of it can be simplified to really crush the workflow down where it's tight? And a lot of that's very important. Because what I do as, a day job is I am an automation engineer. It's what I do for contract. I'm a contract automation engineer. I write stuff to automate other stuff. My job is to eliminate human jobs. Or to save humans time, if you want to be nicer about it. I think we're all very excited about where VR is going to go in the future. Something like Ready Player One. I really think we're going to see something like Ready Player One sometime in the future. And I'm pretty excited about that. Probably, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I really think that if you look at like the I talk a lot about VR and stuff like that, but I'm really in love with all technology. I love computer hardware. I love software. I've just always felt at home with it ever since I was a kid. My mother is in the chat. She could tell you. Ever since I was like 10 years old, I've been obsessed with computer hardware. but I really think that something like Ready Player One, like that future is definitely possible. And I think that the 2020s, the 2010s were really marked by the evolution, the rapid evolution of the smartphone as just a device that everyone has. It made the smartphone became accessible for everyone. Everyone has a smartphone, pretty much. And that's what the 2010s really was. Like you had the early 2000, the early to late 2000s, like 2000. The iPhone came out in what, 2008, 2007, somewhere in there. But then around like 2014, right, the middle or close to the middle of the 2010s, everyone had a smartphone. Applications were being developed for mobile more so than the desktop and web, right? Like if you're developing a new application today, you're probably going to think about developing for mobile first, and that is a significant change in and when I say application, I don't mean games. I mean actual applications. It is a significant change in it's a paradigm shift in how development has been done for the longest time. So the 2010s were really marked by the rapid adoption of phones as mobile computers and as things that connect everyone together, and everyone can have one. Everyone can have a smartphone. And even phones that are bad are still pretty good. Like this is what, an $800 phone or something, the OnePlus 8T. I don't remember because I got it on an amazing deal because carriers and upgrades and all that. But like even the top end phones, like the Galaxy Folds and all that, those are fine. 360-degree VR treadmill. I cannot wait for one of those either. Like, I know it may seem like I'm not into treadmills, but I cannot wait for the ability to duck and roll and just run around on a treadmill in VR. Maybe I'll lose some weight when that happens. But anyway, even the low end smartphones, the ones that are like $300, and I do consider that low end. Anything that's like less than $300, I don't care how poor you are. Anything less than 300 USD is very nearly an impulse buy. Like it's something that you could buy that isn't going to absolutely bankrupt you. Like it may fucking hurt if you're working like a minimum wage job, but they're still fine for what they are. Those kind of phones. They're not great. They're not gonna last as long as something like this could. Of course, I upgrade phones like every year anyway, but whatever. But the 2020s are really gonna be marked by the exact same thing. So let's go back to here real quick. Handle this. Let's merge this down. The 2020s, I believe, are going to be marked by the exact same thing in VR and AR devices, wearables in general. And they've been coming for a long time, sure. Let's just name this con for connector. Merge that down. Close that. Let's go back to our camera here. Yeah, look at that. We're down to 233 draw calls. That's still a significant savings. It's going to go down even further once we get this and get rid of all that. So, the 2020s are going to be marked by the rapid adoption of wearable technology. If the rumor of Apple making some smart glasses, and I don't know how it is in Germany, for instance. I don't know how Germany or any other part of the world at all, for that matter, because I'm, for some reason, un-American. For now, I've been considering moving from America for a very long time, and seeing as our country's kind of on fire right now, I've been considering it even more. the rapid adoption of wearables is what I think is going to be the 2020s, especially in terms of, if Apple has the power to move markets everywhere else in the world, or even in some parts of the world like it does in America. I don't like Apple. I have significant issues with the way Apple operates their business. But if they're able to move markets the same way with phones that they can with wearables, where would I want to go, for example? I would probably move to British Columbia in Canada because they're pretty liberal there, and they're growing in technology, it seems. Funny enough, I've also considered Germany, just because if there's any language I would want to learn, I think I would want to learn German, just because it sounds like a cool language to me, which is probably weird to hear from an American perspective. German or French, I would want to learn either one of those. Outside of that, I'd probably want to move to the UK, or I would stay in America and I would move to California or Washington State. Words cannot describe how much I hate living around deeply conservative people. And I don't know how that rings true in the rest of the world, but to me, a conservative in America is all about racism. It's all about money and greed, and I hate it because there's so much more to life than that. And I thought moving north to Virginia from Georgia would change. I would be around much less racism than I was in Georgia, but in reality, there's a lot of it in Virginia as well. It's a lot more progressive than Georgia is, which may be a surprise to a lot of people, seeing as Georgia just flipped blue with their senators and with the presidential vote, but at least since I was there, it's not a very liberal place. I would like to go somewhere like Washington State or California that just seem a lot more liberal. Yeah. Outside of that, though, I'm really considering British Columbia, but my wife is still in college, so I don't know where or when we'd actually be able to move. So, anyway, back to this. No politics today. I don't want to deal with that. I get heated on politics. To this. Funny, I think I still did not. I still did not go over how I go through my development process here. Just select all these. Make sure I got all those, excluding the door, of course. Pull that out. Yeah, I didn't get the underground part there. That's fine. Let's go underground and grab that. Can't have something floating. Anyway, so back to what I was saying with the actual hierarchy of kind of how I deal with work. So being into automation and software design in general, my thought is always, how can I automate this? How can I automate some part of what I'm working on? How can I make this more efficient? Which, funny enough, I think that if I ever... Damn, I'm bad at going off on tangents. I think that if I ever joined another game studio, I might end up working as like a technical artist, because I love optimizing things to an absurd degree. Anyway, so like dealing with the thousands of objects, I had to come up with a plan for how I was going to go through and deal with polygon counts and collision and all that. So what I did to optimize all of this, the actual models themselves, I went through and I optimized first First, I dealt with textures because you got to get that memory footprint down. I'm currently on build number, I think, 92, or no, it's 9.2, which is actually version 920 or something like that. When I first pushed a build to the Quest, it ran at like 2 frames a second and crashed almost immediately because of the insanely high memory footprint. There's just not enough to deal with materials. And I'm not talking about with this particular area either. I'm talking about with the small loading cell that I had to begin with. It's just a cell that's like, the size of this room probably. It's not a very big area, but it was a testing cell. By the way, I use the word cell because of my experience modding the Elder Scrolls. It ruined me. Everything is a cell. Like, this is a level, but it's also it's a cell to me. I don't know why I still do that. It just... Elder Scrolls ruined me. You're learning computer science. What are you going to try to do with computer science? Are you going to go into game design? Are you going to go into application design? Are you going to what do you plan to do with that? I actually do not have a formal college education because I do not believe in the college education system in America, and I will die on that hill. American education is an absolute joke. There is nearly, outside of stuff like medical, there is nothing that you can't learn online for free or nearly free that a college education can give you. You have an uphill battle because everyone cares about that stupid piece of paper, but I think it's worth it. I will die on that hill. I do not believe in American education, especially for the debt that you go in here, which is insane. Anyway, so I would try to get this stuff on Steam eventually. But what I'm currently working on is for the Quest 2 only. Maybe the Quest 1 if I can port it to it. The next thing I'm going to work on will probably be multi-platform. And the previous project was multi-platform. If I can get the previous project back up and running significantly, after losing all that data, if I can get all that back to working, that will be exclusively on Steam. But what I'm working on now is pretty much exclusively on Oculus. When I first ran this on the Quest with the first build, there was a problem with memory footprint. So I went through and I cut down all my texture sizes. They were all like, 4096 by 4096 4K textures. I cut all those down to like, between 1024 and 512. Some of them down to 256, depending on what they were actually used for in the actual scheme of what they were looking like. And therein lies the problem with automation, right? I didn't go off on that tangent for no reason. What I do. Like, there's so much of this that I wish could be automated, right? Like doing textures. I could have went through and just cut every texture, all of them, down to 1024 or 512, and that would, in essence, achieve the goal that we're looking for, which is, reducing memory footprint. But that also destroys the visual look of what you're going for. And granted, what I'm having here now is an absolute disaster compared to what it originally was. So let's change this to house 3. So, like, these textures are not nearly as good as the 4K versions. You can help. You need to do so if you can't. German school is hard. Uh, wish I could relate, but I can't. Um, American schools are kind of a fucking joke, to be honest. Anyway, so these textures, like, especially on a lot of objects, I did a video about reckless data usage, right? Where I talked about how, you know, games like Medal of Honor just came out, right? Medal of Honor Above and Beyond, and it's a phenomenal game, right? But that game is like 170 gigabytes. Why? Why the hell is that game 170 gigabytes? A good portion of it, clearly, is the phenomenal models and all that. And, you know, there's voice work that is outstanding for a VR game. But I guarantee half of that game's problem in sheer size is texture sizes that are just absurd. Why do you need a 4K texture on a rock that is, you know, 500 feet from the player? Why do you need that? You don't. I guarantee that if you have that same model and its texture is cut to 1024, they're not going to notice a difference. Even in VR, when it's right in front of your face, they're not going to notice a difference. It's very hard to. And even if they do, the loss in quality, ever so slight, is not worth, or the gain in quality, however so slight, is not worth 4 times the memory footprint. It's just not. Not to mention, so much of this stuff is just, it's recklessly designed in that you have all these different maps, right? You have your normal map, you have your actual albedo, your specular maps, roughness maps, and then some of that can be packed into one texture, sure, with, you know, channel packing and all that. But you have all these different maps, and nearly all of them are the same dimensions. So it's just packing more stuff into a large footprint. Where something like my diffuse texture here is, I believe on this building, I believe it's 1024. Let's find out. Let's go down here and check. So we look at the actual texture, plaster wall 01. The material itself, let's go to the actual texture, which is over here. There it is. The actual texture itself was originally 4096. Now it's 1024. And if we change that to 4096, tell me there's a difference there. Tell me there is a difference. If there is, it is incredibly small. Now let's go ridiculously small. Let's go 64. Of course that's ridiculous. But look at the resource size. 3 kilobytes. 3 kilobytes. Versus... Come on, what are we doing here? 4096. Versus 10,923 kilobytes. Problems. Significant problems in how large-scale games are constructed. There's no way to automate that. I swear all this is coming back to a point. There's no way to automate that. At least not without some kind of crazy algorithm or machine learning, what game company is implementing that? There's no way to optimize that. There's no way there's no way to automate that. Then you have like the normal map and specular map. So the specular, for instance, is still at 2048. Why? Because I found, in looking at these models, if you reduce the specular map down even further, You get significant visual degradation that you don't get if it's at higher level. And that's usually just because how the map is actually being used. The normal map is down to 512 because the bumps and stuff, and normal mapping in general. Oh, I'm glad you liked that video. I'm pretty happy with that video because I'm glad you liked the video on game install sizes. I really am. I kind of went off about how crazy game install sizes are. They're ridiculous. Here's another example, though. Normal mapping in general, by the way, is something that you kind of want to kind of avoid in VR because it's a fake. It's an old design mantra of adding depth to something that doesn't have depth by its very definition. The only reason we ever had normal maps was because we didn't have the actual polygon counts to add real depth to something. Like, back in the days of, like, the Xbox 360, you couldn't have a building that had, 10,000 polygons and, 8,000 of those be just the little tiny lines on bricks. You couldn't do that. You can't do that. You still really shouldn't do that. Normal maps achieve that. They achieve a look of depth without actually having depth. And it's a lot deeper than that. I'm not a graphics pipeline engineer. I'm not. It's deeper than that. But that's the gist of it, And with things like Unreal Engine 5 coming out, where they have, millions of polygons drawn on screen at one time, and it just works incredibly well from what we've seen. Normal maps are going to be a thing of the past. I'm going off on a tangent here that's not related. Back to VR. Normal maps in VR are kind of bad. Because they can sometimes create this like weird shimmering effect on items that just doesn't look good in the headset. Now, for my use case... Oh, here's a perfect example of that. So you have like this path thing here. Like, this is the purpose of normal map. It adds depth to an otherwise flat object. And I'm sure this is not news to most people. So like you have the actual diffuse texture here, which is just, the visual color information of the actual item itself. And if you just plop this onto a plane, it doesn't look very good. There's no depth to it. Then you add a normal map to it, and it adds some kind of depth to it. It's not perfect, but it works for what it is. It doesn't look good in VR very much, though. That being said, my methodology for reducing instruction counts on materials is actually to flatten them out entirely. Granted, you lose a lot of detail when it comes to flattening out normal maps. Like, if we were to change this back to being a default lit material, it would look entirely different. But it's a visual quality loss that I'm willing to deal with in order to maintain performance. Have I thought about going low poly? I'm not going to announce anything or say anything too much on that, but stick around. Later on. Not in this video, not in the next video, but stick around for something in the future that I'm going to be working on. That's all I'll say about that. But you're pretty spot on there. Low poly has its place in developing certain styles of games. Certain RPG styles of games that perhaps maybe someone might be working on. Maybe. No announcements. Perhaps it has a place in the future of VR game design, for large scale things, Anyway, so the problem is you can't automate visual style. You can't do it without sacrificing your visual integrity. So I had to go through and edit thousands of textures, thousands of materials. Luckily, material instancing is a thing. which helped out significantly there. And there's also filters and stuff you can do in Unreal Engine. I don't know how many people know this, but they're fantastic. You can actually filter like by resolution, which I can't remember the exact nomenclature of actually typing it out, but I always have to go on the forums for it. But you can actually sort by like you can sort and find materials that are a certain resolution. And then anyway, on to the hierarchy here. Wow, we're over an hour in, and I'm not even really that far into this. I get worked up about game design. It is my favorite thing in the world. So after I did all the textures, I realized that the textures alone was not enough. Okay. After watching the video that Drifter did, which I can bring up here to show on screen, Drifter Unreal Engine. Oh, there's actually an article here that I was not aware existed, but this article, they did a video on this as well. And, yeah, it's just all about how they optimized Robo Recall to work on the original Oculus Quest. And Robo Recall is done incredibly well on the Quest. They did a video on that on YouTube. One of the things they point out is material costs on a device like this, and how you can't handle a lot of material instructions. So the next thing I did was optimized my materials, and a lot of that had to do with reducing material instruction counts. And you automatically get a higher material instruction count when you go to, or so it seems. I've wondered if this is actually the case, but I've looked around the forums and it seems to be the case. You automatically get a higher material instruction count when you use forward rendering compared to the normal classic deferred rendering. So if we look here, I have 118 instructions on this material, which is more than I would like to have. I would like to have, less than 100. And something's going on there. I thought I did have less than 100 on this particular material. Whatever. But compared to the 800 what is with the preview expedition and the main menu vid? How is this project going? The preview of Expedition, the Tales from the Big Top Expedition, that project is currently on the shelf as well, simply because I got obsessed with doing some more VR stuff. Expedition was something that I wanted to work on in terms of Expedition has kind of morphed into what this project is turning into. And the Expedition thing in the main menu vid, those are both related to the same project. I don't really want to talk too much about what those were. But they kind of had a lot to do with like user-generated content. They kind of had a lot to do with like the user creating stuff, if you want to word it that way. And the whole synopsis of it was basically, the player is dropped off in a location, and they need to. It was kind of like the idea for that was kind of like a first-person Civilization game, maybe, sort of, but not. I don't know. It's kind of. I have a whole game design document for that game, and eventually that game will hopefully be made. But I've shifted all of my focus on working on VR stuff, specifically on Quest stuff, because the market for that kind of stuff is exploding, right? And as much as I love my automation stuff, I would love to be making money full-time doing game development. That is the dream, right? Well, technically the dream is AI work in human consciousness uploaded into computers, but that's something far removed from, now. The dream for now is to be working full-time in game development that makes money significantly so that I can do more of this and do less of my automation stuff. Because while I love the programming for automation stuff, it's just work. It's fun for me, but it's just work. And game design isn't. I mean, it is, clearly, but it's not. The Expedition stuff will hopefully get made eventually, and hopefully I'll have some updates on that at a later point. But that'll be after this project and after the next project, most likely. I have a plan for it. It has a game design document. I even talked to somebody about funding it, but it has its place. Anyway, so materials. They are all unlit materials for the purpose of maintaining low draw call count or low instruction count. And I went through and had to do all of those manually as well. That could have maybe been automated, but there were a few cases where I had to maintain transparency, which I know is a nightmare in VR, but it's important for some things. So, after that, the pipeline continues here. I had to go through and optimize each one of these, and not these yet in particular, actually. There's been very little work done on the building static meshes, because that's what's going to be done after they're all combined into one thing. But I had to go through and deal with creating LOD for the actual items. So we go from what do we got here? 844 triangles on LOD 0 down to LOD 3 being 126. I had to go through and mess with all the triangle counts, so they would run performantly in VR while still maintaining a reasonable look to them. And that took a few days, maybe a week to do, maybe 2 weeks. It was a lot of work. Because you can't just, and that's another thing you can't automate because, like, let's just say I did 3 LOD levels for every single item. Or 4, because 0. But then I did every last LOD level was 6.25%. That might work for some things, right? But in this situation, no matter how far away you are from this, right? I could probably make a Discord server where the community can be up to date with vid upload streams and the game dev stuff. I probably could, but I'm not good with Discord. I don't really get Discord, which I feel old saying that, but it's hard for me to maintain. Like, technically I have a Patreon as well, but I suck at updating it. Like, I'm so focused most of the time on trying to get stuff out that it's hard to maintain an audience. Like, it's hard to, which is why I'm not sure YouTube will ever take off to be like some huge thing. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to have like 1,000 subscribers. I don't know that that's ever going to happen. Which even that is a relatively small number. I'm surprised I got to 114. I don't know that that's ever going to take off because I suck at maintaining an audience because all of my focus goes towards actually dealing with the product. Which, if I had like a team or something, or if I could hire someone to be like a community manager, maybe that would be better. But it's hard. It really is for me to deal with. Back to this though. Automation. You can't automate something like, I could not take every 2,000-3,000 items in the game. I don't know. I can have admins. Yeah, that's true, but I don't know that I trust anyone to be on top of it enough to maintain it, right? Oh, 115. I didn't know I was up to, didn't know I was up to 115 now. Nice. Um yeah, I just checked earlier. That was 114. That's surprising. Anyway, um I don't know that I trust anyone yet enough to be like, a community manager or admin or any of that right now, because like most of the people that actually subscribe to me are outside people. I only have like, I think 10 to 15 people that I know in real life that actually follow the stream, that actually follow the videos and actually, keep up with what I'm doing. And all of them are far too busy to deal with something like that. Like Joy, she's one of my friends, she subscribed to me. Camden, he's a relatively close friend that I haven't seen in like a year because of the fucking pandemic. I miss Camden, he's awesome. But yeah, it's a problem of maintaining and dealing with, even finding like an admin or something that I could deal with that. I'd be gone from the Discord for probably weeks at a time, which I feel like isn't very good for community engagement, right? And like Patreon, like I had a Patreon, I still have a Patreon, but I would update it like once every month or two, and people don't want to subscribe for something like that. Like if I relaunch the Patreon at some point and it's like, for videos early or something, like what a lot of YouTubers do, I don't know that I'd be very good at maintaining it, and I don't want to negatively impact what I'm trying to do here by that, with my inconsistency, yeah. So anyway, so you can't automate something like this with automation because not everything works with 6.25%. Not everything works with 15%. You really have to go through and look at each and every model, and maintain a visual consistency, right? So like 15% of what I landed on here, or 14.9 repeating, is what I landed on here because it maintains a visual level of consistency from what the original product is. So if we go from, the LOD model of LOD 3 with 126 triangles down to LOD 0, there's a significant difference. There's more rounded corners, there's more detail, the planks stick out, more. Caveman, same 300%, it's annoying to commit to people. Yeah, something like that. Hey Caveman, I didn't know you were watching. How you doing? Yeah. There's a significant similarity to the to the visual style and the look of what I'm going for, and that's so important. And then the next thing, ghosting. That's what most people do on the internet, I feel like, like Reddit and YouTube and all that. Like most, I've seen something a while back about like Twitter. Like I love Twitter. Twitter is my favorite social media site because it is an absolute dumpster fire. It's fantastic. I love it. But like most of what Twitter is for me is game dev stuff. I follow a lot of game designers and follow a few YouTubers as well too. I have a few favorite YouTubers that I watch frequently, especially while like developing in the background. Yeah, I can't remember what the exact post was, but it was something like 85% of all Twitter users are just like ghosts, and only like 15% of the users actually make all the tweets. Forums are quite a cool way to keep a community. Less real time than Discord. Do have advantages, I feel. Forums are good, and I do have a website, bigtopgamestudio.com. If you weren't aware, I do have a website, but it doesn't have forums on it. And while I've considered adding forums, it's again a problem of moderating them. I really wish I had someone in my life that was close enough that I could trust. And no offense to you guys, but I don't know you in real life. I really wish I had someone, that I knew in real life that was close enough that could help take some of that load off. But like being a community manager and moderating stuff is a full-time job at a lot of places. And yeah, I clearly don't have the money to push it out there. Hello, I see you. I know you're still there, mother. Caveman. Osaka. Say hello to my mother. She supports me. What was I saying here? Anyway, yeah, being a community manager and dealing with a community in general is a whole job, in and of itself. I'm starting to get hot here. Hopefully this fan isn't too loud. Yeah, it's a significant issue to deal with. That hopefully I can eventually find a way to deal with, especially if like YouTube ever keeps growing. Like if I ever get to like 500 subscribers or 1,000 subscribers, I'll probably have to do that, because 115 people is that's a lot of people. I'm not sure I know 115 people in my actual life. That's a lot of people, and it's pretty crazy, that there are people from all over the world that will see you on something like YouTube, right? Like Osaka. Literally fucking Germany. Thousands of miles from where I exist. That know I as a human being exist. Pretty mind-blowing that humans have developed this capability. I'm going off on a tangent that's pointless. Anyway. Yeah, so back to what I was doing here. So after dealing with actual triangle counts, I took, after dealing with triangle counts, doing all of those manually, also a pain in the ass. I went through and did collision on everything, right? So like this, funny enough, actually does not have collision at all, which was intentional for the time being, because I want like I could do something simple, of course, like adding a simple box collision, which would just put a little collision around the entirety of the mesh, but it's not very tight, and like it's fine, I guess. Like if you don't want the player to bounce through it or something, but it's not very good for immersion. So like if the player was to throw a cup, let's say like they have a cup and they throw it against the wall, and it just bounces off. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. And we're not dealing with glass or any of that, so don't worry about that. Glass is difficult, especially glass is difficult in a regular game. I'm not dealing with glass in VR. We're not breaking glass anyway, as much as I would like to. Resources strenuous and all that. The player should be able to walk up with their cup they're holding, or their sword, or their gold coin, or whatever it is. They should be able to walk up to the window and place it right here on this little window sill. Right here, this little board. They should be able to place it there. And while that seems like such a stupid, pointless thing, they should be able to do that in a VR game, I think, And the fact that like use like a box collision, they wouldn't be able to do that. And this intentionally has no collision right now, because I need to go back through. Excuse me. I'm realizing that I don't think I've ever talked for this long in a line on a, especially like a live stream, like this is the second live stream I've ever did. Yes, see, Caveman gets it. Caveman. Caveman Studios. That reminds me of Caveman Studios. They make Contractors. That is a good fucking game, Contractors VR. My wife and I actually played together, and it's phenomenal. Anyway, where's I going with this? Yeah, yeah. Collision matters, Yeah, my throat's getting dried out because I don't talk this much usually on anything. So, yeah, collision matching matters. So there are some items that I've gone through and done collision on everything, but I have not yet done collision on like the housing models because I'm not sure how detailed I can make the collision while maintaining performance. That's something I'm going to do probably last. But for all the other items in the game, that let's see, I'll give you a little sneak peek of some items. Let's go down to let's go all the way down to yeah. All right, so we have an apple here. I'm getting a little sneak peek there. We got an apple here. Let's go down to apples. Let's go to the actual. All right, here's the actual 3D model for the apple itself. The LOD is very aggressive, very intentionally. Something like this can use a simple collision of just a sphere, because while the stem matters, it does. It if you roll an apple on a floor, right, or throw it at a wall, that stem is not going to make a significant enough difference to cause it, for it to matter. Let's go to something more significant, like a bookshelf, or this this bar here, right? The collision on this matters much more significantly than the collision on an apple, right, or on like a wall. The collision on this has to be able to. I have to be able to put an apple inside of this, right? I have to be able to put an apple on this shelf or on the top of this. If it falls here, it should bounce off of the side, right? Versus if you put a simple collision, like if you just put a collision box over this, you wouldn't actually be able to use this as a shelf. You wouldn't actually be able to use this as an object to hold things inside of. It would work for the top. It would work for the bottom, so it wouldn't fall through the floor or fall through a wall. But those things are significant and they matter. And some of this I did using the auto convex collision, and some of it's done manually. I believe this one clearly is done with the auto convex collision because it's 15 collision primitives, which is a relatively high number for what it is. Although I believe the original collision models on this was in the 90s, so it's a significant difference. Everything is a balancing act in game design, and it's you get your collision, it's really a multi-pronged, multi-headed balancing act, and it's like balancing on a top, each object is weighing down each side, and you've got textures, and you've got the actual mesh dimensions, how many triangles, you've got the collision, which is not as important but still important for CPU, you've got the actual game logic, everything. It's all a balancing act. So anyway, yeah, then you have the collision, and then you have the actual LOD stuff. Yeah, and I believe I've went over everything, and I cannot believe that I just spent like probably 45 minutes talking about like the hierarchy of how I develop things, but maybe that's important. I don't know. 5 people watching, so apparently it's something, huh? Anyway, let's get back into this. So, let's go back through and select a few more of these. Okay. And I'm probably going to try to get done with all of these before I end the stream, but I might have to take a break to eat something, because I haven't eaten anything today, which is probably an oversight on my part. Osaka said, could you not set up certain places in the object in which you put the apples? What do you mean by that? Do you mean like there's set locations where like an object could snap to? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean like yeah, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Like, I mean the whole like snapping. Like I could do that, but that kind of defeats the entire purpose of VR, You want physics to really physics are the star of the show in VR, right? And physics are iffy in a lot of VR games. They're not perfect. When I mean physics, I mean gravity is important. The ability for an object to roll is important. The ability for an object to bounce off of something is important. It adds in the ability. It adds in that real feeling to the object. And while I could have like snapping locations for certain stuff, and in some cases that would be the better choice. Doing that on thousands of items creates significant time investment. So much so that it wouldn't benefit the user in the end enough, and it wouldn't benefit my time enough, if you know what I mean. So, back to houses. And the simplest way really is to just make collision models for everything, especially for, I can't really go into too much of it without really exposing what the entirety of this game is. And, yeah. So, anyway, let's see if I can do this here. In a few minutes, we'll get another view of, we'll get another view of how many draw calls we're using. My hope here is that I'll be able to get the draw calls down to less than 100. That's going to be incredibly hard with a city, but using the fog and everything and using view distance culling is really going to help that. So, let's see if I got all the items, which I believe I did. Probably, maybe. No, it's not even close. What am I doing here? Did I? Yeah, no. Huh. What I'm doing there. Okay. I'm off. I have good lunch friends in the same time zone. I had a good watch during mine. Hey, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Appreciate you subscribing and all that. And enjoy lunch, man. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Users shouldn't have to think about how to drop something. That's a very gamified way of looking at things. Like, I think John Carmack actually on Twitter recently talked about how there's a lot of things. Don't know what that sound was. There's a lot of things you think about in game design that you don't have to in VR, because it's like, okay, what button does the user press to crouch? They don't. They just crouch. Anyway, all right, Caveman. I'm glad you stopped by. I'm glad I liked your input. Enjoy your lunch, or have enjoyed your lunch, what have you. Thanks for stopping by. Back to this. Select the rest of these items here. And I might end up doing something different. I might end up doing something different with these bottom pieces here that are hidden by the ground. I might, if it ends up being too many polygons, I might just change the ground level where it's always level with the building. The problem is, I thought that I thought that would take away too much of what makes. I thought that would take away too much of what makes the realism kind of there. And realism is a strange thing to try to target when you've got something that looks like this. But, I don't know. It's all production choices that can change at any time, So I believe that's most of the items. That's nearly all of them. There we go. Yeah, that's all of them. Okay. Now, let's merge all these. Merge these. Let's create another folder there for houses. This is going to be house number 4. And I believe there's only 30 things inside of the actual project. There's only 30 houses in the entire city itself. It's not even a city, it's like a little town, a little starting area. It'll all make a lot more sense once I actually release a video talking about the actual product itself. So house 4. Save. Okay. And then we have just this nice little merged house here. As expected. What might be a good idea would be to hide these as I go through, so we can actually get a good view of what we have left. I haven't even put doors in all these houses yet, but it's not really important yet, of course. Let's just start over here. All these are modular pieces. Yeah, I probably should have ate something before I started streaming. Didn't think that through. Oh well. Worst case scenario, if this drags on for a long time, I'll just stop the stream for 15 minutes and eat something. Maybe eventually I'll get better at multitasking. Because I probably should have been doing all this while I was talking. But I found that kind of difficult. I suppose that's pretty common for someone who's never really done streams very much. That's why I don't know how people play... I don't know how people play games like on stream, like single player games, and still manage to talk to their audience. I really don't know. I don't know how people do that. Maybe I'll get there, but it seems pretty alien to me. I'm like passionate about, clearly. It's you know, like about anything game design basically. It's pretty hard for me to concentrate and also talk about, you know, it's hard for me to do what I'm trying to do and talk at the same time. Which is why I have large segments of just, you know, rants about textures and materials and whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and merge this one down as well. There is a good reason for not having the doors. So let's merge this one down as well. And one thing I wish I could do with these as well, but I know I'm not going to be able to, is have vertex painting on the actual materials themselves. So I could add like some broken stone and stuff underneath the actual plaster. But yeah, it's just not something that's going to be possible with this particular build on the Quest 2. If I end up ever doing something more... stylized, I'll definitely end up doing something like that, most likely. This is gonna be house number 5. Moving right along, house number 5. It's like what, 3/5 of the way there? No wait, 5/30ths of the way there. Some kind of math. This is house number 5. Save. Let's see here. 13 viewers. Cool. Okay, so we got that one now. That is one model as expected, not like that. Ooh, don't do that. There we go. One model as expected. The actual pivot points on these don't really matter. I don't know if, anyone's noticed, but the pivot point changes based on the last item you select. And if I really cared about the pivot point, I would probably change that, but... And for something else I did, and for like the menu system that I can't talk about yet, that I shouldn't talk about yet, I did end up changing the pivot points on some of them, but Unreal Engine doesn't really have a great method of dealing with pivot points, to be honest. Like, if you go into a static mesh, you can view the pivot point, and it'll show where the pivot point is, like over here, the little line thing there. But and you can do shift drag the pivot point, or something like that. I can't remember what the hotkey is, but you can move the pivot point around. But it's still not a great experience compared to something that it could be. I really like how this one turned out. It's just weird looking. I love how a lot of these weird little towers, they just look cool to me. I don't know why. I'm a sucker for medieval stuff, man. Medieval fantasy stuff. It gets me every time. Of course, at some point in the future, I also want to make a sci-fi game. It seems like there's a crossover frequently with those types of nerds. Where, if you like medieval, you're probably also going to like sci-fi. Like, my favorite games are Halo and and Elder Scrolls. So, of course, there's a large overlap there. And Fallout. Ooh, love Fallout. Except for that, travesty that is Fallout 76. It seems like it's becoming less cool to hate that game. But, I can't get with it. I don't like multiplayer stuff like that. And selecting. If I would have thought this through, I would have grouped all these together when I made them. But I didn't, and I really should have. You can do Shift, Control G to group things together. And then you can just move them as an object. And I really should have did that when I was making these, but I did not. That's unfortunate. It's all good, though. It's all part of the development design. Okay, we're missing a few items. That's fine. I don't know if other people have a problem seeing what they've actually selected, or if it's just me. Like, it might just me being colorblind, but like I have a hard time. Like, I always just move the item out of the way to see if I've actually selected everything. Maybe that's a common practice. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Merge actors. Merge. Houses. New folder. That's 5. And there is a reason why I'm putting all these in folders as well. Because, as soon as I have the exterior of the actual house, for loading purposes, there's also going to be an interior level, clearly, which is the reason why there's a door that leads into another area. So, yeah, like right in here, house 6. Okay, let's hide that one. Making a way here. Some of these just have little accessory pieces like this too that I think just kind of add to the design. Because while modular pieces are fantastic, there is something to be said about hero pieces that are designed specifically for a purpose, Modular kits are fantastic. I can't imagine working any other way. I love modular kits, but they do have limitations. Like, how many designs can you really make with, a kit that doesn't have, like curves and stuff like that? There's significant limitations to what you can do with modular kits. But I feel the workflow positives far outweigh any of that. And you can really change designs using little prop pieces as well. Like, you're trying to watch on your phone? Oh man, I'm sorry. Yeah, the 4K probably really doesn't help for like lower devices like that. I don't know. Maybe at some point in the future I'll get another monitor, like a 1080p, and just like put it up here. Like you can probably even see in the reflection in the TV behind me. I work on two 43-inch 4K monitors, which is a necessity for coding and for working on things the way I particularly like to. So like trying to downscale to like a 1080p like resolution is pretty painful. Yeah, maybe I'll find a way to. I don't know. You can still see the big screen here, though, right? Like, hopefully. Yeah. Glad you stopped by, though. I'll say hello to you like I did, the other people that were here. I think Caveman's gone. I think Asaka may still be here. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I'm not gonna try. Are you a subscriber or are you just stopping by? What's the deal? Are you into game design? You just like VR stuff? What's up? Let's take a look up here. Make sure I've got all these. Again, it's hard for me to sometimes tell what I've selected and what I haven't. It's got to be because I'm colorblind. Like, even with my glasses, like, having these has been a absolute game changer for me when it comes to, like, programming and blueprints. But, like, in terms of, like, selection stuff, it's really not perfect. Yeah, I'm still missing some items. Not that many, though. I got that one. I missed that one. There was something on the other side as well. Like, I'm aware it also outlines the things that you don't have selected. Like, I think this... I don't have selected... Yeah. See how, like, the outline goes away? Oh, okay. You like Unity and have a game as a school project. Okay. What kind of game? Is it also VR, or are you just working on traditional flat screen gaming? What you got going on there? Also, Unity's fine. And I've been asked before why I don't work in Unity and why I don't prefer Unity or why I prefer Unreal over Unity. My problem with oh, you're a sub though. I have no clue how I got to you. I don't know. I've made a bunch of different types of videos. So like I have the game design stuff. The stuff on my channel that's really started growing was the game design stuff about like my VR project. The original one that I had that I unfortunately lost most of the work on due to an SSD crash, which was a disaster. Outside of that, I did some like reviews on I did like a Pixelbook review and like some VR headset reviews, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm glad you're still here. The channel's growing slowly, but steadily. If I put more time into actually trying to grow it, it probably would grow more significantly. Anyway, people have asked me why I don't, why I prefer Unreal Engine over Unity, and maybe you could give some input on this as well. And it's been a few years since I've really messed with Unity significantly, but my problem with Unity has always been that in order to do anything in Unity, you have to basically reinvent the wheel. Like, everything in Unreal Engine is done... Like, so much of what you need to do for basic game design is done for you. You don't need a ton of plugins, right? Like even this tool, the Merge Plugins tool. Oh, okay, you saw my stuff when I was researching about when you were doing Selenium. I love Selenium. I just did a project for a contract. Osaka, I'm probably not that far behind you going to eat something. I'm not going to turn the stream off. I'm probably just going to put it on like a loop or something, so you guys don't have to see me eating, which would be weird. I've become one of those mukbang channels or something. It'd be weird. Anyway, yeah, like even thanks for stopping by though, Asaka. I appreciate it. Even like this tool here though, like I don't know that Unity has something like this. Does Unity have something that? Yeah, because Unity is very simple and learn C# on it. Like that's another thing too. Like my preferred programming language, the language that I prefer above all others. Like I know Python, C#, a little bit of C++, a little bit of Java, JavaScript, a little bit of Ruby from like years ago. Like years ago. My preferred language is C#. It is a phenomenal language. I write automation tools in C#. I started designing like I've designed like web automation stuff in C#. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. Anyway, Unity is very simple, but that is its downfall in a way, right? Like I don't think Unity has a tool to merge actors into a single thing, right? Or like there's so much weird investment Unreal Engine makes in things that just work, right? So like since 4.22, there's auto instancing of the same actors, right? So like while there's still like 1,000 actors in this scene, there's 910. So many of these are like the same wall actor or wall static mesh. So at runtime, they would all be compiled into a single draw call, right? Ever since 4.22. Yeah. See, it doesn't make it, but you can make it. And that's the problem. It's not... Like, you can make a million tools in Unity. And like, using C#, you can do anything with C#. But it's not built into the engine. And granted, you could probably make a better tool than this for your particular use case in Unity. No doubt about it. A specified tool is always going to be better than a tool that is universal, right? Like, Unreal Engine is not great at making mobile games in particular, or you don't see a lot of 2D mobile games for it, because it wasn't really designed for that. Unreal Engine was always designed for like this fast-paced, hard-hitting, like first-person shooter-esque, design. Like open world games were never a real focus of Unreal Engine, so the open world tools kind of aren't great compared to what's available in some other engines. They're getting online, especially now with things like Fortnite. They're making their giant open world. They're really pushing a lot of open world tools, but yeah, like the tools are just there for you to use, and there's so many of them that it's easy to get lost, which is why it's not as simple as Unity, but that's a positive and a negative. It's daunting, right? To open up the engine and see all of this stuff you can mess with and all of this stuff you could possibly break, But once you actually get your hands on it, and once you know what you're doing, I've been using Unreal Engine for years now, and once you know what you're doing, though, you can zip around the engine so quickly, and you can do so much stuff with just tools that are built into the engine that you don't need an external program for. You don't need an external program, for like, you no longer... Like, it wasn't that long ago that, like, if you wanted LOD, right? You wanted level of detail meshes, you had to make them in an external program. Or you had to rely on Simplygon, an external partner, to decimate the levels of the actual your high poly mesh. And you don't really have to do that with Unreal Engine, It's just built into the engine. Since I think the Polygon tool has been built into the engine since like 4.20 or something like that. And these tools are changing all the time. Like I said earlier, before you got here, or maybe you were already here. I have no idea actually. That like this tool has changed significantly. It used to be just like one option, and now it's like 3 of them. Yeah, and you just merge it down, and it just works as it just works as a tool that just makes your life as a developer so much easier. You know what I mean? So. Alright, there's house number 7. I'll grab that. Move it around. Yep, got everything. We'll hide that. Yeah. Let's do this one. I'm going to include Maybe I shouldn't. I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to include the steps as part of the final mesh. Because, again, it's a balancing act between, you know, a single draw call and, you know, triangle count. And, you know, if you're over here, right, you really aren't going to see that much of that. And if I was to turn on the fog and really move back some, are you really going to care about those steps if they're not selected? I don't think so. I think I should perhaps make those into a second... Gotcha, Hyper, gotcha. Nathan Thomas? Hyper? Yeah. I get a little excitable talking about things. I don't know what that is. That's not my giveaway. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to care about those stairs, you know? If you're all the way over there. Yeah, I don't know what that is either. So, yeah, let's turn that fog off. Yeah. I'm gonna condense these into one. I'm gonna merge them together for house 8 and call them stairs. And worst case scenario, if they're maybe he's talking about like the giveaway that I plan to do for this tablet eventually. But it was like for the 100 subscriber thing. I haven't got around to even making the review of it, and I was gonna do like a giveaway of it just because it was like kind of like a joke video. Anyway, I'm gonna merge these down as well, even though it's yeah. I'm gonna merge them down as well, and worst case scenario, I'll just add them back in if I need more performance later. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. It's all about the balance of performance. It really is. House 8. Probably should have done 0, like 0, 8, 0, 0. Like I do everything zeros. Anyway. Underscore stairs. I'll add that there. Save it. It'll be merged into one thing. And then we'll do the actual house itself. Close that. Although, merging by materials, it would have included the same material there. So maybe that'll end up being a better thing in the end. I don't know. A lot of this is guesswork. Like, a lot of it's calculated, but a lot of it's guesswork as well, you know. It's, really all depends on what the end result is. A giveaway for a 3090. Ooh! Dude, I wish I had a 3090. I've got a 5700 XT that I am somewhat disappointed with. Oh, I'm missing a thing there. There we go. 3090. Can anybody even get their hands on 3090s? Other than like big YouTubers like Bitwit, Jay's 2 cents, Linus Tech Tips, stuff like that. Can anybody even get their hands on 3090s? I don't personally know anyone that has a 3090. Yeah. All right. Well, let's merge this down as well. This will be number 8. I think after we get to number 10, I am going to pause the stream, go get something to eat, which shouldn't take more than 15 or 20 minutes, and then come back to the stream, because I'm starving over here. As much as it may not seem like it. Number 8, houses. House number 8, house 8 stairs. 8. That'll be another merge there. Take us down to another item here. That's number 8. Let's hide that. Hide the stairs. What I probably should have done too was like take an overhead view of like of how many draw calls there were. So if we like went to the very top and how many draw calls would be like here. That's 296. Granted, we got rid of 8 houses already. So the 1080 is still a good card for what it is. I'm having deja vu right now. I don't know. The 1080 is still a good card for what it is. The 20 series is fine, although they were a little new on features for no reason that nobody really used. I still don't understand why anyone needs fancy reflections. I don't get RTX. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it has some potential use cases in other areas other than, like, reflections, I suppose, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting a 6900 if I can from AMD. And if I can ever find one, I'd love to get a 3080 or a 3900. My problem I have with the NVIDIA cards is their lack of VRAM. I really, really want a card that has like a ridiculous amount of VRAM. Granted, the 3090 does not have that problem. Yeah. But I really want a card that has like 16 gigabytes of VRAM for no reason. 20 gigabytes, And I can't ever justify, going with like a Quadro or something like that. Don't have the money for that. I should have did like an overhead shot to see how many polygons we would have, or draw calls we would have reduced in the end. But oh well, too late. I suppose we could do a camera here now, and then do control. I think let's do 4. Yeah, 292. We'll go from there. We'll go back to 3. That's not gonna matter because things are invisible right now anyway. Draw calls aren't counting. Hey, we're up to 6 people watching. That's pretty crazy for a stream about game dev stuff. Didn't expect that. That sounds like such a ridiculous number, doesn't it? Ooh, dude, 6 people. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Anything more than 1 person watching is cool to me. I appreciate it. Game design and stuff like this is my passion. And anytime I can share that passion with other people that are willing to watch is fantastic. I don't either, man. I really think you said I don't get why I'm not more popular. I think really the problem is just that I don't invest enough time in trying to like grow an audience, I guess, because I don't have the time for it. Like, in between trying to develop a product like this and trying to yeah, I mean, I suppose there are a lot of people that are interested in game dev that aren't even game developers. But like, I really think the problem is just that I don't spend a lot of time trying to grow an audience. Like, it's just something I don't have a lot of time for. I would love to. Like, I would love to do like YouTube and like game dev stuff full time, but it's not sustainable to do that, or it's hard to grow an audience when you're so small. Like there's 115 subscribers apparently, and yeah, like I don't, but like that's not a small number. Like it's small in terms of like YouTube, I guess, but it's not small in terms of human beings that exist. Like that's a lot of people. Like, a room full of 115 people, that's a lot of people, I don't know. I think I'm just not... I'm not as charismatic as a lot of people, like, that do YouTube probably are. And a lot of that probably just comes to me being, like, nervous on camera sometimes. It's gotten a lot better, But, like, I mean, of course, people are self-conscious about their weight, and about how they talk and stuff like that, but... I don't know. It's probably just a thing that'll get better over time. But hey, you could help out with that by... You could help out with me being more popular by sharing me to people you know. Like, and it also probably doesn't help that I went like 2 months last year. 3 months even, I think. I think it was 67 days without an upload. And that's not good for consistency of like a YouTube thing when people want rather consistent content. And you hear people all the time talk about, the YouTube algorithm, and it's real, where it really prioritizes frequent uploads, um, which is hard to do when you're doing content like what I want to do, which is a mixture of review stuff and stuff like this, which like last year I didn't do streams of game dev stuff like this, but I did like sped up footage, and the reason for that was because I was like deathly sick at the time. I'm pretty sure I had COVID. I'm almost certain of it, but it was like early January. No one knew what COVID was yet. That's true. I mean, I guess I could make kid videos, but I don't like children. Like, I don't. I don't think me and my wife are gonna have kids anytime soon, just because I like my freedom and I don't have time for a kid. I don't have time for a kid. And you're into game dev. That's pretty cool, man. For what it is. No offense to you. That's all of those. So that's 4. Okay, this will be number 9. Let's merge those down. Gonna keep the stairs on this one because it's a small item. It should be fine. So it's hidden under the ground anyway for culling purposes. So a new folder. House number 9. That's. Oh, it's not right. 9. House 9. I'm on my hands today. 9. Save. Alright. Grab that. Around. And then hide it. And let's do this one. I do think I'm going to maintain this little extension piece on this mesh as well. I could get rid of it. What do you mean? Like how am I? I'm fine, I guess. I don't know. Don't know how I'm going to. There's a significant number of polygons there, but I think I might leave that on there just for simplicity. Worst case scenario, I could just remake this later. This is what, you would consider a destructive, semi-destructive changes. So, like, it's hard to go back to models alone after you've, converted them all to merged meshes. So like, it's always easier to add more stuff to the mesh after creating it, because you can just recompile the mesh and add stuff to it, like what I might end up doing with those stairs later. But here I got everything. Nope, I did not. I missed the main front part. There we go. Yeah, there we go. But here, yeah, I think I want to maintain that like that. Then we'll merge that. Is there like no desktop select in UE? What do you mean desktop select? You mean like a click and drag? Because if you mean that, like there is, but that would also select um, the ground and my boxes for like lighting and the skylight and all that, and I don't want to deal with that. Easier just to select each individually. Probably. Or maybe I'm just hard headed, I don't know. Merge actors. Houses. New folder. House 10. Save house 10. That's also one hotkey that I can never remember because like there is times when you would want to multi-select, and I can't remember. Maybe it's like Alt. No, Alt does that. Center mount. Nope. Nope. Space Shift. Maybe. Nope. Nope. Click. Click. Can't remember. Is it Shift? No. I can't remember what the. Why can't I remember what that is? Center mouse button drag, maybe? No, that's not right either. Huh. Why can't I remember what that is? Maybe it's, nope. Yeah, I can never remember what the hotkey is for that either. There's like it's like you have to hold down Shift or Control or one of those keys. I can't remember in order to like drag a box, but I cannot remember. I can never remember what it is. Maybe it's no, that's not right. Control Shift. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so with the first 10 houses done out of the 30, I'm going to pause the stream and get something to eat. That should take like 20 minutes or so, and then I will go back to it. All right. Where is my thing? There it is. You are turning in just a few, hopefully. Alright. Back to the game design stuff. Alright. Back to the game design stuff. Alright. Let's start on this weird looking house over here. I love these towers, I really do. Not very practical, but I still love it. Excited to see how many draw calls we're going to reduce down to. It's also going to make it interesting. I'm going to be able to decide on stream where the cutoff is for the draw distance. That's going to be pretty exciting. And maybe we'll actually push a build to the quest at some point. We'll see. I expected this stream to go for like 2 hours, but it's well past that, even with my 20-minute lunch there. I think that like 45 minutes of it was just me talking about the process and just random game design stuff. I don't know. It's a passion. I think I almost got all of these, perhaps. Let's try that. Oh, you must have came in after after I was talking about the quest. So, yeah, the Rift S is a fine headset for what it is. It's fine. But what I'm currently focusing on building is specifically for the Quest 2. Quest things on Rift S? No. That I'm aware of that, no, there's not a way to run anything Quest 2 related, or Quest related in general, on the Rift S, because the Quest apps are compiled for the Android operating system, whereas the stuff on the Rift S is compiled for Windows. Technically, I guess maybe you could emulate something, but nah, I don't think so. The Rift S is fine, but everything I'm developing these days is on the Quest 2, just because of the ease of use. It just works. I had nothing but problems on my Rift S. Like, it was a fine headset, it was great, but I hated having a wire above my head, and I hated how often I had to unplug the cable and plug it back in. Absolute nightmare. With the Quest 2, I just plug in the cable, and it just works. And if I'm running standalone, I just upload the build with the Oculus build tools, and that's it. It just put it on and it works. Usually. Alright, let's compile this. Let's merge this. This is new folder. Number 11. Nope, wrong thing. You know, perhaps if I would have like posted this on Twitter or something, I'd have more viewers. Didn't really think about that. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not good at I'm not good at I'm not good at growing an audience. Should have posted. I guess I can do that now. Twitter. Are you following me on Twitter? How should I word this? I don't know. Live streaming doing some optimization in Unreal Engine. Oh man, Twitter's the best social media. Thing. It's the actual link to the video though. Shareable link. There we go. I mean, that would get us some views, yeah. There we go. Close enough. See how that goes. Probably not good at growing an audience, man. Probably should have tagged it with some like hashtags for Unreal Engine or something. Yeah, perhaps I should redo that tweet. Yeah, that's not good. Close. Let's copy that. Hashtag 4. Tweet. I'm not. I'm certainly not making the tweet about something about TikTok. I am getting old. I don't get TikTok. At least I feel like I'm getting old. I don't really understand TikTok. I thought about doing like, although I did thought about at the beginning of the year, I thought about launching a TikTok for like development stuff. I see you. I'm glad you're still here. I thought about launching a TikTok for like game development stuff, but I don't know if there'd be a market for that because I feel like the market for TikTok is like people that are like teenagers. So continue merging all this down so we have less draw calls, and then we'll deal with all the polygon counts. Yeah. Nice. Thanks. Thanks for the retweet. I'm again going to leave these stairs separate, just because I don't know if they'll be useful attached to the building. I think they're just going to add unnecessary triangle counts. Yeah, let's try that. See if I got everything, which I think I did. Yep.